What are you saying? There's, you know what? This Hummer keeps telling me something. And the Hummer is telling me that there's some changes outside. And, you know, hummingbirds in certain parts of our country, when it gets cold, they have to fly to where it's warmer. And so this little guy here is telling me that there's some changes in some parts of our country, and it's getting colder. And it might not be that way here where we live, but I looked at the calendar. We're now in October. We're in a different season. So do you guys know what the four seasons are? Well, it is a musical group in the 1960s, but you can ask your grandparents about that. But you know what the four seasons are? I'm sure you do. One is winter, and what happens in winter? It gets cold. And then there's spring. That's when the flowers come after winter. And then there's summer. Yeah, that's when it gets hot outside. And then there's fall. So winter, spring, summer, or fall. That's another song just ask your grandparents about. But then there's fall. And that's the new season. Those are the four seasons, right? Winter, spring, summer, and fall. All you have to do is call and God will be there. That's another song. But that's what this Hummer was telling me. We're going into a new season. We're going into fall. It's October. And what happens in fall? Does anybody know what happens in fall? Yeah, I know you do, but I can't hear you. Pua. What happens in fall? He's being silent right now. That's right, he's a pig. He doesn't speak English, he speaks pig. But what happens in fall is, I'll get to that. Does anybody out there know how to tell time? You know, you look at a clock. Do you know how to tell time? Yeah, I see you out there. Yeah, you know how to tell time. God also has different ways that you can tell what time of the year it is. You can tell time by the season. So if it's cold outside, yeah, that's probably winter. And if you live in areas where the snow falls, yeah, that's probably winter time, right? And then springtime is when the flowers come out. So God is also telling us that it's time for winter and it's time for spring. And then summer comes out. And if you live here in the deserts of Arizona, it gets hot, doesn't it? Yeah, it gets hot. Yeah, Pua, it gets hot. He turns into bacon. No, he doesn't. He stays as Pua. But it gets really, really hot in the summertime. And in some parts of the country, that's when the bugs come out because they like it. And then there's fall. And in fall is when these little guys fly from the colder parts of the country and they fly to Arizona. So even God can tell you the time. Well, also our clocks are synchronized by the earth and the sun. And we know that God made the earth and the sun. So let's talk about seasons. Because we just went through the four seasons. We know that you can tell the time by just looking outside, winter, spring, summer, or fall. All you have to do is call. But again, that's another song for another day. We know those are the seasons. But what about seasons in our life? Because sometimes we go through different changes in our life, right? You get older, and then things happen in your life. So we're going to talk about some seasons of our life and how God, in his own special way, reminds us that he's always with us in every season. Even the season when this guy, yeah, I heard you already. When this guy has to fly back to Arizona to stay warm, there's seasons in our life. So let's talk about seasons. So we're going to be in the book of Ecclesiastes. So Ecclesiastes chapter 3, which is right there. So we could probably look and see, how do you spell Ecclesiastes? it's pretty much in the middle of the Old Testament. So you got to go to the Old Testament to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, that word, even though that's a long word, I didn't know how to spell it. I had to look in the Bible to see how to spell it. But it means preacher. So we're going to go to the book of Preacher, or Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. So take your time right now. Go get your Bible if you don't already have it. Go to Ecclesiastes. It's right after Proverbs and right before Song of Solomon. Ecclesiastes. We're going to be in chapter 3. And it talks about there's a time for everything. So I got my magic board here. It's not really magical. It's just a dry erase board. So in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it talks about the different seasons that you go through in life. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So I'm going to start off each one of these with a time, okay? So remember we talked about time? You could tell time by your watch or a clock, but you could also tell time by what's going on in your life, okay? So there's a time to be born, right? You guys were born, and then there's a time to die. That's another season of your life. There's a time to plant, and there's a time to sow. What this means is there's certain times of the year that you plant, and there's certain times of the year that you take the plant out of the ground. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. Now, I know Pua doesn't want to hear time to kill because sometimes we eat pigs. But then there's a time to heal. There's a time to tear down. You know, like sometimes you got to tear down a building, but then there's a time to build. There's a time to weep when things are sad, and then there's a time to laugh. Now that's the time to laugh is the time that Pua likes. Pua likes to laugh. And then, of course, there's a time to mourn and a time to dance. Mourning is when you're not mourning as in the morning. It's like when you're sad and somebody dies and you're really sad. That's the time to mourn. But then there's a time to dance when you're happy. There's that happy time. That's what the part that Pua likes. These are different seasons that you go through. There's a time to search. And then there's a time just to kind of give up searching. So for example, let's say you're searching for a certain rock. You're looking for that rock, and sometimes let's just stop searching for that rock. Let's take some time and not search anymore. There's a time to keep, and then there's a time to throw away. And what this means is you want to keep God's love, right? There's a time to keep it, and you want to throw away sin. So there's a time for all these seasons. And then, of course, there's a time for love, and there's a time for hate. And when is that time to hate? It's sin. You need to hate sin. But there's always that time to love. So there's these different seasons in your life. Just like if you look outside and you look at the calendar, or if you go outside and you notice that it's getting cold outside, that's probably the season of winter. But we also go through seasons in our life because God is always there to remind us in his own special way. Just like right now we're in the fall. And what you see in the fall is when the leaves change. The leaves change in the fall, and sometimes they land on your head, and Pua's got to shake those off. And just like you can also tell by what people wear sometimes. If they're wearing coats, that's the season of winter. In the fall, people kind of wear orange. That's why I'm wearing a fall shirt today. But what I want to tell you guys is there's a season to everything under heaven. There's that time to love. There's that time to tear down. There's that time to build up. There's that time to laugh. There's that time when the birds have to migrate to when it's warm. But I want you to remember that God has a special way to remind us of those seasons in his life. Because you know why? Because he's there with you during those seasons. He's there when you're sad. He's there when you're happy. He's there when you dance. He's there when the birds are coming back to the summer, to winter, to spring. And now we're in fall. And God is with us every season, during the good times and the bad times and the happy times and the sad times. But now we're in fall. And fall is that time just to remember, yes, the leaves are falling. Yes, I'm wearing the orange shirt. Yes, the hummingbirds are coming back. But you should always remember in fall and in spring and in winter and in summer, God is always with you, and he always will be during those seasons of your life. So when you get a chance again to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it talks about those different seasons and how he's always with you. And you know what else? I'll see you next time.